Nowhere in the world is seeing the standard of living collapse as fast as it is in Canada, but you've got to ask the question, why is this happening? Why are so many people looking for the exit? And why is there no hope in Western countries anymore? Places like the UK, places like Ireland, places like France are also the scenes of rising authoritarianism, rising crime, and censorship. And these are not good things, and these mark the beginning of an unraveling which is disturbing in of itself. Canada's standard of living has been collapsing now for the best part of 5 years. The reality is, though, most people would say it started a decade or even 2 decades ago, and the birth of a mortgage bubble and housing bubble and debt bubble was really what started this off, because people started taking on insane amounts of debt considering their growth of their household income, and that basically led to a massive deficit between what people earned and the amount of debt that they have. And that deficit still exists today. It has moderated slightly, but it is still one of the highest in the developed world. And that is a major problem for Canada and is really stopping Canada from growing. And another thing that has really contributed to the decay of society in Canada is the fact that you have had an immigration bubble form. A massive amount of people were took into the country from wildly different cultures to the ones in Canada, and basically there was no plan at all on how to integrate these people, and it has been a total fucking disaster, with a lot of those people being led down the garden path of what they thought the life they would get in Canada.
Don't come to Canada if you're stable back home. It's not worth it. It's just a fleece. It's a mirage.
Compared to the reality of living on the streets, of going to food banks, or not being able to find an entry-level job. So all these things have contributed, and a lot of people ask me the question, well, what do I do? And later in this video, we'll get to 2 residency programs that are easy for anybody to get as a plan B and the pros and cons of those. In places like Canada and in places like the UK, you have seen the rise of censorship and authoritarianism, and that is a very bad sign that has happened.
And something that my government is going to do is to use all of the powers of the federal government, including the emergency powers of the federal government, to accelerate the major projects that we need in order to build this economy and take on the Americans.
Not only that, you are seeing that people are not united at all. The government fucking wants you to believe that this elbows up nonsense is uniting people across Canada. Meanwhile, you've got growing resentment from places like Alberta that want to get the fuck out of Canada. And really, if Alberta leaves Canada, then the whole confederation in Canada is at risk. And it's likely to happen. I do think that there's going to be growing resentment, and likely at some point in the future there'll be a vote on whether people want to stay or leave, because it essentially would disrupt the economy even more, leading to uncertainty in places not just like Alberta but around Canada as well, which would further take away from inward investment. And that's the thing, nobody wants to invest their money in these legacy Western countries anymore, because the fact is, when you look at how bureaucratic these countries are, when you look at how much they want to tax your money, when you look at what they're doing and all the rules that you have to abide by, people just don't want to deal with that anymore. So they're just not investing into those countries anymore. And I see entrepreneurs all the time and connect with entrepreneurs that are from Canada or from the United States. None of them want to live in either of those countries because they know that those countries are becoming increasingly unsafe. They are becoming politically unstable. I mean, even if you like Trump or hate him, not here to debate that, I really don't give a fuck. But you have to say that the political stability in the United States has definitely been eroded over the past 5 to 10 years. First, you had a guy who looked like he had dementia, and now you've got the uncertainty and risk of somebody who is completely unpredictable in office. And that doesn't lead to stability in a country country. And if you look at what's happening right now with trends, especially in things like tourism, you can immediately see that people aren't just staying home because of tariffs and things like that, although indirectly it might be related to that. They're staying home for vacations because guess what? The global economy is heading into a recession. Jobs that were plentiful aren't plentiful anymore. And the fact is, the life that people have been living for the past 10, 15 years since the financial crisis, which is just essentially keeping your head above water ever so slightly, is coming to an end, which really then puts all the bubbles around the world, stock market bubbles, housing bubbles, and everything into jeopardy. And you may have heard of something called the Cantillon effect, and what essentially that is when new money is created and brung into the system, that new money mostly goes to the elites, the wealthy, and the people closest to the money printer. And then eventually, by the time it trickles down to you, you might get a few cents here and there. But what that means is all the wealthy and the elites are buying all the assets, and essentially that is further just destabilizing wealth inequality. And what you don't realize is that wealth inequality really does matter, because when wealth inequality goes wildly out of whack like it is right now, that's when you begin to see rising hostilities between classes. That's when you begin to see rising crime. That's when you begin to see more authoritarian rules that we're seeing with governments in response to this. And that's really why a lot of people are choosing to disconnect. They're choosing to leave and get out. And now let's quickly just talk about two residency programs, which are probably one of them at least is the most popular, which is Mexico. So many people are living and working in Mexico from the United States and Canada and many other countries. And they're doing that because the residency program is very easy. It's very easy to obtain temporary residence in Mexico as well as permanent residence. It just depends on proof of funds. If you have enough money in your bank account or you're earning enough money, then you can easily go apply for those, and they're not very expensive to get. Another residency that I believe is miles better than Mexico is Paraguay. And the reason is Paraguay residency is fairly easy to get right now. And I doubt that's going to change that much, because when you actually look at the government in Paraguay, they seem to know and understand what they need to do in order to get more people to invest in their country, which is being open. And they have not only been open to people, but their tax laws are also very, very favorable to foreigners, especially if you're not even living in Paraguay. But even if you're living in Paraguay, the cost of living is extremely low, and they have a 10-10-10 tax rate system, which essentially means 10% corporate income tax, 10% personal income tax, and 10% sales tax. So Paraguay is actually really tax friendly, and I much prefer that option over Mexico. I believe it's a perfect plan B, and looking at what's happening in the future and looking that everything's going on now around the world and how many people are messaging me on a day-to-day basis compared to what they were a year ago, really shows me that people really want to get out. They are sick and tired, and they just don't have the hope, and neither do I. If there really was some light at the end of the tunnel that I could see, then I would definitely tell people about it, because I believe in a dire time like we're in right now, now is the time to come forward with that information. But unfortunately, it's just not fucking there. So there is really no point in somebody coming on camera and lying to you saying, oh yeah, things are going to be better in the future. I see the economy is going to pick up. The economy might pick up in terms of the numbers, but that don't mean shit to you. And that's really what people don't understand. When you look at largely what's happened since 2008, most people's standard of living has absolutely collapsed. Meanwhile, the elites and the wealthy have seen their standard of living absolutely skyrocket. And that comes from the wealth inequality. It comes from all these favorable laws that have been passed. And it also comes from, unfortunately, the stock market bubble. And part of the reason why these authoritarian leaders keep getting voted in is because people want some change. They want something to change. Little do they realize all these politicians are pages torn from the same fucking book, and it really doesn't matter which page you take out, because the story of the book is exactly the same, and it ends in a total train wreck of an economy and a dying country like you're seeing in places like Canada. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd highly recommend that you check out this video here. And then if you're looking for a VPN and also want to help support this channel, go to expressvpn.com/Luke Unleashed, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.